What is up, you guys? Welcome to Illumination Lab. My name is Justin, and today we'll be going over this cafe I made within Cinema4d. My goal, like always, is to walk you through my process. First, I'll show you the reference I use, how I modeled the scene, and the colors I utilized to bring it all together. We're going to have a lot of fun with this one. We're trying some new techniques today, so without further delay, let's get into it. Alright, so like always, we're going to hop into this reference here. The reason why I chose this reference is just because it is very different. Different in the fact that it has some very unique, vibrant colors. They have these orange seats with the orange lights here, and then of course this blue couch and the blue wall. I thought that kind of worked well together. I liked all of the different glasses and plates and all that set up on the table here. And then, of course, with this lighting, you can kind of see that the lighting is coming from the left side of the picture here, and it's kind of both shining on the wall, and then if you look here at the bottom, it looks like there's a light kind of rolling across the floor here. So, and then another thing as well too, what I liked about this is just the composition of it. You can definitely tell that the focal point is this middle table here, but you also get the additional two tables on the side. And then in the foreground here, I don't know if you could see this glass in the foreground, but it's a little bit more blurry up front. So again, we can definitely tell that the purpose of this was that this table is going to be the focal point. I think what's also pretty interesting too is you look at some of these, not windows, but it looks like mirrors here. So you have these two separate mirrors that are different shapes, and then you have some really cool looking plants coming out of the other two here. So we're gonna hop into Cinema4d, see if we can do something like it. So without further delay, let's get into the modeling process. Alright, so as we jump into Cinema4d here, you may know this if you've seen my videos before. I always start out with some sort of backdrop to start out with. Like always, I do this to kind of give myself an idea of what I'm working with. Normally, I'm a little bit more familiar with either a canvas or just even like a sketch pad, and so I almost use these curves here as that, where it kind of gives me an idea of where exactly my scene is going to be, and then also the boundaries of my scene as well. So we're going to throw in a C curve here just because of the composition of this piece, and then we'll roll through this. And another thing I do as well is I'll typically bring in a Redshift camera. I do this to, again, kind of set up the composition of my piece here, and then I'm going to try to replicate that of the reference here, where again it's focusing on the middle table, but we also have the other tables and the wall in the back, and so I just want to get a similar composition to the reference here. And as I'm looking over at the reference, I still think this curve here is a little too small, so I'm gonna play around with this and try to stretch it out similar to the reference here. Alright, so now that I have the curve set up, what I'm going to do is bring in the cube, and I'm going to start laying out both of our surfaces. So I'm going to start with the wall here. And then I'm just going to copy and paste the wall, rotate it, and then that's going to be our floor here. So when looking at the reference, there are some really cool chairs here, and I think what we'll do today is Cinema4d within the library here has a really cool looking chair, so we'll import that from the library, but we're gonna make this couch by ourselves. So I'm just going to import this chair real quick, and then I'm going to hide it, and then we're gonna bounce into the couch here. Alright, to start out with a couch, I'm going to bring in a cube here, and then we're going to select fillet here just to kind of round out our edges. And then once I kind of have it how I want as far as the bottom of the couch, I'm going to bring in another cube here and start to play around with that as our cushion. For the cushion, I'm going to turn on fillet as well, increase the subdivisions. And then we're going to bring in a shear deformer to kind of give us that curve of the cushion here. And really, I'm just playing around with the strength here to see what kind of shapes we can get. I think that shape is good enough, so what we'll do is we'll rotate it and set it up like so. Alright, so now that we have our cushion, what I'm going to do is copy and paste this here just to make sure that I have all of the cushions here somewhat uniform. All right, now that we have the bottom cushion here, I'm going to copy and paste, shrink this down, and this is going to be the back side of this couch here. And as far as this goes, I'm just adjusting it slightly to get a similar shape, and then I'm going to bring in a bulge deformer here to kind of give us that roundness that we can see in the reference here. And like before, now that I have a somewhat good looking cushion and this back cushion here, what I'm going to do is copy and paste this and align it to the bottom of this couch here. And then if you look at the reference here, they do have it looks like the actual back of the couch, it kind of wraps around. It has this little corner edge here and then wraps around the couch here. So we're going to try to achieve that same look here with this cube, and then we're going to bring in a bend deformer to help give us that bend here. All right, so now that we have the right bend, what I'm going to do is just stretch out this cube so the length is correct and it goes all the way down this couch here. Now I'm just gonna play with it a little bit and see if I can get the right look here. All right, so I like how that's looking so far. So again, if we look at the reference, we see this little bar that goes alongside the bottom of the couch here. And so we're going to recreate that by bringing in a cylinder and then shrinking it down here. And then I'm just going to adjust it to the couch here. Then in order to get the cylinder to wrap around the couch, what I'm going to do is bring in a separate cylinder here, and then I'm going to bring in a bend deformer and just kind of bend it around the couch here. Now we're going to bring in another cylinder to just continue this rod here across the couch. Then for this other curve, I'm just going to copy and paste our original curve here, rotate it, and put it in place here. Then I'm going to do the same thing here on this other side and just adjust this rod so it actually looks a little bit more realistic here. And that will probably do just fine, especially since our composition is going to be from a different angle. I'm not going to wrap the rod around this other side because the camera won't see it, so we just won't do it here. All right, so next up, we gotta make the legs of this couch. So I'm going to bring in another cylinder here, and then I'm going to bring in a taper here, and then just adjust it to the reference here, trying to make the top a little bit bigger. And then as we look at the reference, you could kind of see it shrink down a little bit more towards the bottom. So we're again going to bring in the taper to help achieve that effect. And now that I have it situated to how I like it, again, we're just going to copy and paste it and line it up throughout the couch here. So the couch is looking pretty good so far, so we're going to kind of let this be for now, and we're going to start on the tables here. So I'm going to bring in a cube here, and we're going to fillet this one as well, just to give those nice rounded edges to the table here. Now I'm going to play around with this and see if I can get it to a proper scale here. So we got the two tables. Next up is we need our other wall here. So I'm just going to copy and paste our original wall here, or our back wall here, and move it to this other side. Then looking back at the reference, I think I said this earlier, you can actually kind of see the light coming in from the left side of the reference here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a bool on this left side here, just so I can have an area where some light can kind of travel through this wall here. So what I'm going to do is go into the Grayscale Gorilla library. I'm going to select this capsule here. And I'm going to align it up here, similar to almost like an archway here. And then I'm going to bring in that bool to make the effect that we're looking for. All right, so going back to the tables here, we can see that the tables are slightly thicker here, and then also they have somewhat of a curve to them as well. So what I'm going to do to replicate that effect is I'm going to bring in a shear here, make it a child of this cube. And then I'm going to rotate it. And then play around with the strength just to see what kind of looks we can get. Just to see if we can get that correct curvature of the table here. All right, so next we gotta do these table legs. So what I'm going to do is bring in a cylinder and just adjust it like so. And again, if we peek over at the reference, we can see that there's these two squares here at the bottom. So we're going to replicate that by bringing in 2 cubes here and just changing the scale down to somewhat of a similar look. Cool, so that looks good enough here, so I'm going to copy and paste this and bring this over to the other side of the table. All right, so next up we got to create these mirrors here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a tube here. Then I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm just going to adjust it to the arch similar to the reference here. And that looks good enough. And then we're going to bring in a few cubes here to help complete this archway here. Then we'll just set this on the wall here. Then we'll copy and paste this a few times because they do have a few similar mirrors like this one, and then they also have this square one as well. So once we adjust this, we're gonna roll into the square mirror here. And this one's going to be pretty simple. We're just going to throw in some cubes here, make the square, and then we're pretty much done with this part. Next up, we got to find some pretty cool looking lights similar to the reference here. So again, I'm just going to hop into the Cinema4d library here and see what kind of lamps we can find. I found this one. This one is going to be the most similar to our reference here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of play around with it, get it to proper scale. And once that's done, I'm going to copy and paste it to each side of the mirror here, similar to the reference. And then we're going to adjust it a little bit later down the road. Now, if we look very close to our reference here, you can see that there is this little fixture that is holding up the lamp. What I'm going to do is do something a little bit more simple. I'm just going to kind of bring in a cube and have it run down the wall here to kind of help us cheat a little bit with bringing the lamp out without having to see the whole pole stick out of the wall here. So I'm going to again bring in a cube and kind of align it up so we get a similar look here, but you know, we can kind of cheat the look a little bit. So now that we have the lamps looking good, what I'm going to do is bring in that original chair that we brought in at the beginning of this process. I'm going to get rid of the color here of the chair and then just adjust the scaling so it's a little bit more proportionate to the scene here. And then once I have that down, we're going to fill up the table here. So I know the Cinema4d library has a tons of options when it comes to plates and cups and silverware. So I'm just going to import some of those plates and cups here, and then I'll do that for the utensils as well and apply it to this table here. And next, I'm going to bring in a vase here and a few other items to kind of get it similar to the reference. I know in the reference here, they do have this really cool looking vase with a little plant sticking out of it. And then they do have a few candles here. So we're just going to kind of shop around and see if we can do something similar here. Now, after I figure out how to set these utensils properly, I'm going to bring in this towel here. I know in the reference, they do have the towel kind of wrapped around some of the silverware. So what I'm going to do is not exactly that. I'm going to kind of alter the towel a little bit where you could kind of see that it's sitting on the plate to kind of give a similar look, but we're not going to kind of wrap it around the utensils. One of the reasons why I'm doing that is I feel like with any sort of simulation with cloth is going to just eat up a lot of memory, and so I'm already pretty nervous with all this glass going in that I might not be able to render this with Redshift. And so what I'm going to do is do a similar look but not as advanced. All right, so next up is actually my favorite part here. I actually really like lighten up the scene here. So what I'm going to do is bring up the render view here, and then we're just going to play around with a few different lighting options here. So what I'm going to start off with is a area light and kind of adjust the area light here to this archway that we created to kind of help bring the light across the scene. And then what I'm going to bring in as well is this dome light here. And so I'm going to hop into Grayscale Gorilla once again, and we're going to shop around for a few different HDRIs to put into this dome lights. The reason why I do that is these HDRIs create such a good ambiance, and so I'm just going to play around with that and see what kind of effect we can get out of that. And I like this one here just because it does create quite a bit of lights. Well, just enough for the scene here. And then it also kind of creates that coolness that we're looking for. Again, if we look at the reference, the wall is a very light blue, and then the couch is a blue as well. So even though we have a few different oranges within our scene, I still feel like the overall feel of the actual reference is somewhat of a cooler look. So I feel like this HDRI that we put in here definitely helps represent that. So now that we have the lighting set up, we're just going to finish these tables here. So now that I like how it's set up on our right side here, what I'm going to do is just copy and paste it here and adjust it to both sides of the table. So I'm going to spread it out across these 3 chairs, and then also on this other side where the couch is as well. Then to make this extremely easy, we're just going to copy and paste this to both sides, so all the tables are set and we don't have to do it individually. So finally, we're getting to these mirrors here. So what I'm going to do is bring in a cube and just adjust it similar to the reference here. So I'm going to have it start at the bottom, go all the way to the top. What is going to be tricky with the ones that are kind of arched on the top, the cubes necessarily don't fit. So what I'm going to do is create a bool here where I bring in another cube and just adjust it so it looks like our mirror is stopping right at the border where it's supposed to be. So this is a new technique. I haven't done this before, but I had this really cool looking idea. I was looking at the floor here and you could kind of tell that it is almost kind of zigzag pattern, which is really interesting. I did go into Quixel Bridge and I was kind of searching around to see if there was any preset options that was similar to that. However, I did not find any of that. So what we're going to try and do today is recreate that same look. And so what I'm going to do is bring in some cubes here and just kind of match it up to this reference. I've never done this before, so we're gonna we're gonna see how this goes and just kind of play around with it and see what cool effects we can get. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to copy and paste this here again to make it a little bit more efficient. And we're going to align it to this back wall here. And then what I'm going to do is go into the Grayscale Gorilla library. I'm going to find a few different unfinished wood textures, and then I'm going to pick out about 5 different colors and apply it to the floor here and see what kind of look we can get from that. Now, to get a actual real look of what I'm looking at, I'm going to open up the Redshift IBR here, and as I'm applying these colors, going to kind of see what it looks like in the render view here. And as we're looking at it, it does look a little flat. So what I'm going to do is bring in a Redshift tag and turn on displacement. And so with displacement, we'll get somewhat of a more realistic look here. And now that we have all of this, what I'm going to do yet again is just copy and paste here and just kind of line it up to the floor. Alright, and as we peek into the render view, we did get somewhat of a similar effect. It looks like in the reference there's a finish over it. It has a slight glossiness to it, where we have a little bit more of a just a natural unfinished look. I actually prefer this a little bit more versus the reference, so I think we're going to just keep it how it is. I can always go into this and kind of increase the glossiness to it, but I kind of like the unfinished look. It's very different, and then of course having the patterns here is a little bit more interesting than just having a flat plane of just any sort of wood. So we're just going to roll with this and continue on. Now, as we look at the reference, we do need to pull in a few different colors. So what I'm going to do is pull in a few different chromes here, some gold, some black as well. I'm going to try and find a good orange for these seats, and then a few different blues as well for both the couch and the wall here. So So now that I have the colors, I'm just going to fill it in similar to the reference here, and we'll see what happens when we fire up the render view. right, so bringing up the render view here, we do see that we did good as far as the couch here. It is a little bit more blue versus their a more turquoise couch, so we'll definitely address that later. And then we did get a nice looking orange on the chairs here. I'm not thrilled about the lights here, but I think we're gonna keep it how it is unless we can find another metallic orange color here. But I think we're gonna keep that how it is. And then the mirrors are kind of interesting. Redshift has a mirror asset here, so I just dropped it onto our mirrors here, and so we're getting just kind of an odd reflection since we don't have anything in the background yet. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of play around with these colors here. I'm going to try and shop around at a few different places for a few different colors, see if we can get a little bit more towards the reference here. What I'm going to do as well is go over to Quixel Bridge and bring in some plant assets here just to kind of line up to the wall here. I actually did not record that process because it's just me looking at colors and different plants, and so to kind of keep it more streamlined to an actual like model video, I ended up just doing that off screen. If you are curious about how I brought in those assets, I think I show it in almost all my other videos, so you can always pop over and check those out. So but really what I did was I brought in some plants, lined it up to the wall, again similar to the reference, and then I just played around with a few different colors here. And then I did find a really interesting looking plants. I decided to throw in the plants into the vase here that we have on the table. So it definitely was a process for sure, but it was definitely enjoyable. And so now that we're done with the modeling process, we'll just go into our final thoughts and wrap up here. All right, so wrapping up the video and wrapping up our project here, what I liked about it is we were able to kind of recreate a similar look here. To be completely honest, looking at our overall render here, it does have somewhat of a toon look to it. It doesn't necessarily look as real as we would want. One of the things I just was not sure of is I had no idea if this was actually going to render. I actually stopped before I got to the plants as far as recording this because my render view was just way too slow, and so there was there was a time there where I really didn't think that this was actually going to render out. And so but I played around with it and eventually I was able to. It did take about an hour 15, an hour 30 per render here. I am using a 3080 Ti GPU, so it's not a slouch, but it's not the best thing in the world, especially when looking at VRAM and all that good stuff. That's a little bit more optimal for rendering. So, but I think we did something that was again similar to the reference. It's very vibrant. I normally don't do a lot of projects that are this bright, and so I had a lot of fun with this one. I do have a few different projects coming out that I'm really excited about that. I know I say that at almost all of my endings that I have for my videos, but I have a lot of really cool projects in the mix here. So feel free to let me know what you guys think, or let me know what kind of projects you guys are looking for, and we can kind of work on those. Did get a request to go over some camera options, so in the next video you guys will see here, I'm just going to go over a few different camera techniques, and we're just going to play around with that, have a good time. So, but just like that, that's the end of the video. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one.